Judith Franklin walked across the Tsar inner ship bay. Her boots clanged on the metallic floor, and sparks showered her briefly as a box spider welded on the arm high above her. She looked up, shielding her eyes from the bright glow. She looked over the massive frame being built and found the opening into the interior of the mech. She stepped through and had to crouch low as she walked through the halls. Judith entered into a chamber deep in the chest and found Spitzlittle. The Infinigan was connecting wiring harnesses into a central construct. "Pardon, ma'am. You told me to meet you here?" Spitzlittle pivoted her ears at the human and slowly turned her 4 eyes on her. "Yes. You said you had something you needed my approval for?" Judith looked at what Spitzlittle was working on, then looked at her. "This is one of your Omegas?" Spitzlittle stood up, her head brushing the ceiling. "Upgraded version. Work in progress. Tell me what you wanted, there is much to do here." Judith knelt down on one knee. "The AI is building a launch bay. The ships being built over there will be ready for trial in just a few days. Since you are running lead here, I need your permission to start training pilots." Spitzlittle sat down on a conduit. "You pilot the affirmation?" Judith nodded. "Yes. Do you have candidates ready?" "Yes, there are 2 of your species that I wish to test as well as several of the Fuimos." Spitzlittle raised up one of her lower hands. "Then go ahead. We need more defenses operational." Judith nodded. "I will get to work then." Spitzlittle got back up and grabbed a couple tools. "I need to get back to work as well." Judith stepped out of the chest cavity back into the open air of the ship bay. Several crawfishin hovercraft lifted off, their repairs done, and left out the protective field while she walked toward the hall doors. Inside the chest cavity of the mech, Spitzlittle finished connecting the power wire to the cradle. She reached into her bag and pulled out one of the seeds Farigi had given her. She lowered the seed into the cradle. Once fit in, she flicked the switch on the wall, allowing current to flow into the metallic shelled seed. The seed moved. Tiny threads sprouted and curled out of the cradle into the side chambers. The threads found liquid alloys she had prepared. Roots sprouted into the alloy, and the seed shot tiny shoots through pre-made conduit. The shoots found more electrical plugs and grew into them. The newly born Gree began threading its filaments farther and farther into the mech frame. A tiny eye opened in the seed, looking up at Spitzlittle. "Hello, little one. Welcome to your home. I am Spitzlittle." The eye blinked and puffed air as it began speaking. "I have been informed. I am to aid you as shipborne?" She bobbed her ears. "Yes. I know your kind like large spaces. This ship is a bit smaller than the large cruisers your fellows use, but I made it special. I hope you like it." The Gree flexed several ends of its sprawling shoots. "I can feel it. It's strong. It has form. It is not done, but it wants to move with me." She hopped a bit. Yes, exactly. You will have a crew here in your tunnels, but the ship is made to be you. You will move it. You will be able to move unlike your fellows." The newborn Gree focused on her. "What do you call this ship? What will you call me?" She crawled up beside it, looking into its eye. "Raga." Jahadin was practicing punches when a grazer walked in through the doors. He stopped and looked at his guest. "Hello, welcome to the Twain Dojo." The grazer looked around the room, at the mats, the bags, several weapons on the wall, and then at Jahadin. "I asked a human out on the street what this place is. She said something about training and combat. Is this true? You train here?" Jahadin walked up, looking over the alien. "Yes, that is overall a correct statement. Are you interested?" The grazer bobbed its head. "I farm with my family, but I would like to try out to become an officer. I do not think I could handle it, though." Jahadin stepped closer and knelt, looking at the grazer's legs. "Can you kick?" The grazer bobbed its head again. Jahadin put out his hands. "Kick my hands!" The young grazer kicked gently. Jahadin shook his head. "No, full force. I do not want to hurt you. Hit my hands. I will be fine." The grazer bent his back legs and sprung forward, shooting its right front leg into the human's hands. Jahadin let his arms bend with the blow and slid back with the force. Jahadin smiled and stood up. He extended a hand out to the grazer. "I am Jahadin." The grazer took his hand in its grasper. I am Ilfante. Well, Ilfante, I would love to take you on as a student. It will be a learning experience for the both of us, but if you are willing to try, I think you have great potential. Ilfante clapped his mouth back and forth. I kicked well. Jahadin nodded. Your legs pack a lot of force. It will be interesting to see what you can do. Callie walked into the habitat of the young preservers. Several shuffled along the wall as she entered. She raised her hand up. Hey, am I in the right place? A black and tan one cantered over to her. You are the archaeologist? She nodded. I guess I am. Name's Callie. She held out her hand. The black and tan preserver took her hand. I am the preserver. She looked around the room. Aren't you all preservers? It grew taller, spinning its eyes to focus on her. Yes, that is true. Then what is your name? I am the preserver. She sighed. Okay, I'm going to be working with all of you, correct? She looked around the room. They were bobbing up and down in agreement. Well, you there, purple guy. What if I want you to hand me something that is next to you? If I say, preserver, hand me that, how do you know who I am talking to? The black and tan one beside her maneuvered into her field of sight. I will help you. They will do as I say. She looked at it. But what if I want that purple one to help me? I want him to do what I say. The black and tan one grew taller. She will do what I want her to do. You can direct your inquiries through me. Callie raised her finger at him. Look, bud, I'm not trying to mess with chain of command already. I just want to know what your names are. He shifted back and forth, eyeing the others with his 3 eyes. Our names, they are smells and colors that you do not perceive. They are personal, and we do not like others to misname us. You can call us preserver when referring to us. That is what we do. She put her face near his. She could smell the funk of his shell. Look, I am a human. We name things. Naming things helps us make sense of the world. Now you are getting a name. Either you give me something to call you, or I am going to call you Cookie. She looked around the room. Either come up with verbal names that I can use when we are on site, or I will give each of you names. She looked back at the black and tan one. Cookie, you got that? The black and tan preserver stretched taller still. I understand. We will have names for you by the time we depart. She winked at him. Thank you, Cookie. Now, I actually wanted to talk to you all about what you are planning to bring. I have limited tools on the ship. Wasn't actually planning on this job when I came across the universe, but whatever. I want to know what you guys have access to, and what I need to get fabricated. The purple female cantered over, spinning as she walked. She touched the device on her chest, sending over a list to Callie's arm display. Callie looked over it. Thank you, Grape Juice. Grape Juice? The purple preserver said. We have a grape plant DNA on file acquired with the coming of your Posar. Tell me of this plant, we have not grown it yet. Callie looked up from the list. It makes a purple or green fruit. Humans have cultivated it for thousands of years. We use it to make juice and fermented drink. Sustenance and mind-altering substance. I like it. The purple preserver spun and walked back toward the wall. I will accept grape juice pending a taste test. A small blue and yellow preserver walked across the room. Ma'am, Callie, what would you name me? She smiled. Let me think. Sam walked down the aisle of the Senate chamber. Every seat in the room was full, occupied by the crew of the Posar. Sam stepped up to the podium and opened up files on his display. He arranged the talking points and looked out at the room. Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending. He looked down at his arm display. You all know I'm not good at talking, forgive me. He looked out at everyone. First petition of the day. I have a grievance against me saying that I am hoarding wealth, that I have used Earth life forms for profit, and that the money derived from such ventures should be distributed amongst every human here. Sam looked around the room. I'll be honest. I think it is my money. Hell, I invented it. Everything here I orchestrated and got going. I put in the groundwork, and I'm reaping my rewards. Sam stepped away from the podium. That does not mean I will hoard it, though. I have numerous ventures that I'm investing in, and there are job opportunities for everyone here and then some. Take your pick of what you want to do." He motioned to the crowd. "Thoughts?" A group of men near the front jeered. One stood up. "You've got a monopoly. You own everything here. It ain't right. I think we should vote to have your empire broken up so there is fair competition." A woman in the back stood up and clicked the button on the Senate app asking for the floor. Sam sent the talking button over to her. She cleared her throat and spoke through the comms. "I'm with Sam on this. We voted him to keep his spot as acting president. This is his station. I do not think he has a monopoly. There are numerous worlds, numerous jobs out here. Anyone with any gumption can build an empire of their own." Sam nodded and pointed at her. She continued. "Many of us here knew what we were coming into. I and many others brought our own seed banks. And I know a few even brought animals aboard the ship. We have the capacity to make our own fortunes here. I do not see the need to steal his—" The man at the front began shouting. "Let's take a vote then. Institute the wealth tax." He attempted to start a chant. Only a handful followed his lead. Frith stepped away from the wall at the side of the room, clicking the app for the floor. Sam sent it. "Hello, everyone." He looked across the room. "This man has offered his home, his food, hell, even his air to share with us. Everyone here has an apartment built and maintained should they want it, all because of his generosity." Frith pointed at the vocal man near the front. "You are already living out of his pocket and you want to take more? What kind of lazy fuck are you?" Admiral Frith looked out at everyone. "I agree, let's put it to a vote. Put everyone's name next to their choice too. I'll be sure to take note who the greedy people here are." Frith relinquished the floor. "Orbit." The purple boy appeared next to the podium. "You wish for the vote, sir?" Sam nodded. The vote went out to everyone's displays. The room tallied their choices. The room sided at 80% against a wealth tax. Sam let out a sigh of relief. Orbit looked up at him. "Did you want me to share who voted what?" Sam nodded. "We are allowed to speak our minds, and we are allowed to know who's speaking." Orbit put out everyone's choices to the station database. Sam set the motion aside. "I hold no grudges. It is an argument had many times over our history. But now we have a newer argument, one that we have had once before. What do we share about ourselves with foreign species?" Sam looked out over the room. "I have been gifted a file on worlds across the rim pertaining to histories and mythologies for us to use. The giver of this file has asked for a history of humanity in return. I have allowed them a basic, hollow version with numerous key points missing. They want more, and I want to know what you all feel we should share about ourselves." Callie Smith stood up on the right side of the room. She pinged a request for the floor. Sam granted it. "I have been granted access to the historical file of the Rim by Sam. I wanted to give my opinion. The records are detailed and methodical. It was put together by one of the nearby AI species, the ones that the Hue are so opposed to. The amount the Totem have shared is astounding. The file does not have any spacefaring tech, only pre-flight historical records. I think we should share like for like." A woman on the other side of the room asked for the floor. Granted. She stood up. "Did it share their biology or how they operate? What about their social structures? There are numerous things about us that could be taken advantage of out here. We have to be careful what we share. Am I wrong?" Sam took the floor back. "I propose a human committee. Hell, we need one anyway. Let's say 10 people work on the project. I can put out a hiring for it. What do you all think?" Callie shouted. "I love it. Put out the vote." Sam looked around. He then nodded to Orbit. The vote went out, and the Committee of Twain Diplomatic Relations was approved 95% for. Sam opened the floor on the app. "Anyone else have anything to bring up?" Jahadeen stood up. "For anyone interested, I opened a dojo over in the trade sector. I have open enrollment for strength training, cardio, and martial arts." Sam looked to Orbit. "Take a note of that and send it out on the market app. Drum up business for him." Orbit noted it on the station file. Olivia stood up and requested the floor. Sam granted it. "I have 2 things. First, down on Kawaru, I got to talking with the Infinigan Crunch Cheek. The little guy has some badass ideas, one of them being we get a racetrack going. You say you like to invest in business ideas. I say you invest in building a track. Sam chuckled. You looking to win some purses? She laughed back. Hell yes I am. She raised her fist up. Live fast! Several pilots in the seats raised their hands and responded. Die faster! Olivia smiled. Second thing, what's with the huge tanks of water? I peeked in one, and you have a sea stored here. What's that for? Sam looked at her. That is living space for a large oceanic species. It is also acting as an algal oxygen supply for the entire station. Also, it's water. Sam raised his finger. You want to go swimming, don't you? She laughed, and then looked around the chamber full of humans. I don't think I'm the only one. Think they would mind? Sam smiled at Orbit. Put in a request. State it clearly and attach files of what humans at the beach are like. Orbit bowed his head slightly. Request sent to the ocean growers, sir. Sam looked out at his people. Anyone else have anything? Nobody requested the floor. All right then, meeting adjourned. The newly manufactured, Greek-controlled, Sparrow-owned ship. The Harvester arrived at the upper docks. Curator and Shineless stepped off the gantry into the old entry hall, with Shineless holding baby Caroline. Hislips was at the checkpoint, happy to scan them back aboard the Twain. Hislips looked into the swaddle. Curious. I haven't seen such a small human. It looks like it hatched early. Shineless gave Hislips a peck on his forehead. I missed you. He waved her through the scanners. Your mother is arriving soon. She looked at him. Yeah, she said in her message that she had been on TARPA business, top secret research. He nodded. She got herself a good job. Quite respected. Shineless smiled at him as she turned her body away. She waved. I'm going to go see Dad. Good seeing you, Hislips. Glad you're back, Shineless. And tell your dad he still owes me for those gaskets, he shouted as she walked down the hall. Curator went through the second scanner and nodded at the officers as she darted after her. Curator caught up as they reached the arm leading to the zoo. You want me to hold her while you go into the habitat? Shineless looked at her, and then down at Caroline. Yeah, I'll ask Crunch Crunch to make her a breather while I'm in there. Shineless stood next to Curator in the entrance hall of the zoo and handed the infant over. Shineless kissed the baby girl on her cheek. Be good, baby. Mama will be right back. Curator rocked the child in her metal arms as Shineless walked across the zoo toward the Infinigan habitat. Caroline looked up into her curator's shiny face, admiring her blurry reflection. Curator cooed at her. Hi, little one. How are you? I don't have any food for you. You better be good. Curator rocked her back and forth, monitoring her heartbeat and breathing with her numerous sensors. The two walked through the zoo, looking at the menagerie from 100 worlds. They stopped and admired a large worm creature that moved around its enclosure in a similar fashion to a loose spring falling downstairs. It flip-flopped over itself repeatedly in an incessant circle. Curator pointed with a halfway free hand. That one is funny. What do you think, Lil Miss? Curator made her way down the lane and approached the preserver's lab. She stepped in. Hello? Anyone in here? The preserver stepped from around a project rack. Hello, Curator. What do you have here? It's a little human child. He looked it over. It is my Shineless offspring. It is fat, healthy looking. He spun and looked at the android. She is having you take care of it? The baby looked at the tripod like preserver. She reached out and shrieked at him. Curator bounced the baby in her arms. It's okay, Lil Miss. You are safe. Curator scanned the lab with her monocle eye. Do you have anything a human infant could ingest? The preserver cantered over to his synthesizer. A protein fluid mixture should be easy enough to make up. Give me a few minutes. He started punching in a program into his display, and the synthesizer began rendering protein strings into a tube. He spun and looked at the android. How is the new world going? Curator bounced the fussy baby in her arms. The farms are growing nicely. We brought the first harvest with us. Your kids are helping greatly there. The preserver focused on the procedure at hand, still speaking. That sounds profitable. Sam will be pleased to hear of your progress. She nodded and looked down at the baby, her body bouncing back and forth slowly. I think he'll be more impressed by this little fussy girl. The synthesizer made a noise signaling it was finished running the protein fluid program. The preserver capped the glass tube with one of his tri-fingered gloves. He poked a hole in one of the fingers and tilted the tube so the fluid would fill the glove. He approached and lifted the protein fluid-filled finger to the lips of the child. He looked at Curator. "She will like this, I think." Curator looked at it. "Go on, try it." The baby grabbed it and latched on, instantly quieting. Curator smiled. "She likes it." She looked up at the preserver. "Good job. You had that ready pretty quick." The preserver spun back over toward his experiment rack. "It is a modified form of the sluice I used to make Dam and Shineless. It fed them just fine. I figured she wouldn't be that dissimilar." Curator held the tube aloft as the child suckled. A scribbler lawyer named Bantufrin was using a solitary hover tray to tour the station. He had just newly budded and was learning his trade. He spent his formative days studying the Great Wall of the office and was now doing a study on the ancient files of law given to his people from the humans. He floated the station looking for a topic to do his thesis for the wall. Bantufrin stopped in front of the air medical facility. He watched as 2 injured Kawaru entered into the hospital. He blinked a few times and then decided to follow. Bantufrin hovered up to the giant Kawaru. They had given their information and sat down in the waiting room. He floated closer. "Hello." The larger of the fuzzy brown creature looked at the small, floating gray lump. "Hello. Do you need something?" "Yes. I am wondering what happened to your hand." The Kawaru both looked at the one stump with a bandage on it. The larger one looked back at the scribbler. "Got caught in gearing. I'm lucky it pulled free before I followed it in." Bantufrin blinked a few times and then typed in his tiny display console on the hover tray. "And what were you doing when this happened?" The Kawaru looked at him, clicking in confusion. "Building, of course. Our GRI needs sheets fabricated." "These sheets, these are for construction purposes to assist your GRI. How exactly do these help your GRI?" "Our GRI is growing. It needs a home. We are building him a ship." The scribbler kept typing. "And do you get paid for this?" The 2 Kawaru turned to look at each other, then back down at the scribbler. "Yes, we get our living wage, taken out from the group profits." "How are you planning on paying for your hospital visit?" The Kawaru clicked its curved beak, agitated. "I don't know yet. The heir are asking for more than I have. They say they will regrow my hand, but it will cost over time. Final question. I know this is bothersome. Have many others been hurt similarly?" The other Kawaru clicked the answer this time. "Yes, many. We get hurt lots. Many are indebted to the heir." Bantufrin stopped typing and focused on the 2. "Thank you for answering my questions. You have given me an interesting topic to ponder on." The Clouder senators had come together into the hall after the humans had departed. Sam had stayed and taken a seat on the front row. Olivia took the seat beside him. The 2 chatted as the room filled with members of other species. Frith stayed, leaning on the far wall. 3 obelisks walked up to the podium. They touched legs and the central one took up the comms. "Thank you all for assembling. We have matters to discuss this cycle." A file pinged to everyone's displays. "We will be going through them line by line with discussion on each topic following said topic. Anything needed said before we start?" The obelisks waited, and the room watched in silence. "All right. First topic." The obelisks brought up an image of the Posar. "Humans. Just one of their kind has caused disruption around the entire rim. We now have over 1,000 humans, and they are already spread across 3 locales. We have found their influence to be a net positive and profitable. The hotel has stayed full since its opening. We are currently in a stage of upgrade and rebranding, so as to accommodate more visitors. We believe this is solely due to the humans' existence here. Does anyone disagree with the humans being a net positive?" The hagfish delegate buzzed for the floor. It stood up, stretching its flesh and teeth. "The humans are chaos and destruction. We have seen the video of their ships fighting the Golok. They are not uplifted. They are makers of war and violence. It is our belief they are a net negative." The hagfish sat back down. The obelisks scanned the room. Grack stood up after taking the floor icon. My kin fought on Kawaru Prime. I watched the videos of what they saw. The humans in the tower are destroyers. They killed without hesitation, but they destroyed to stop destruction. Already Kawaru is blooming again. The world is healing. The humans are as a fire, it burns and destroys, but life will grow back stronger because of it. The Craddock think they are a net positive. Heckletooth stood up, taking the floor. The Infinigan vote they are a net positive. The obelisks put it to a vote. 70% voted that the humans were a positive. The obelisks took the comms back after the quick tally. The humans are a positive. We will continue under their leadership. They conferred for a moment amongst themselves. Then the central one spoke again. Second topic has been brought forth by Gravefwak and Zamudans. Our human SAM president has already approved the topic, but we wish to open the floor about Phase 3 planning. The discussion about Phase 3 lasted for 4 hours. Sam and Olivia spent most of it taking a nap on each other's shoulders. The scribblers took notes with keen interest. Numerous parties added what they wished for, and a debate on funding was led by Guafrek. It was all settled, and the plan approved. The obelisks then opened the floor. A scribbler hovered on a small holotray, taking the floor icon. Hello, I am Bantu Friend of the line of Chet. I wish to bring up a topic. He looked over at Sam and Olivia. I've been studying human law and medical practice. They have a concept that I wish to address, and that is that those doing employing should take care of their employed. I witnessed 2 Kawaru this cycle, injured while working for others, and without a way to pay for healing. I have drawn up a petition to start an insurance firm, and would like those present to inspect it. I ask for a vote on it in the next fortnight. Bantufren sent out the file. Sam pulled it up immediately. Olivia looked over his shoulder. She laughed. I never thought our legacy would be insurance. Sam read through the main points. He's right. He's addressing the reason for unions and OSHA all in one go. Sam looked up at Olivia. This is kind of brilliant. He has some good points. It could fund the air. Sam pointed at a graph. He's even plotted a growth effect chart. Olivia looked at it, going over the data set. Sam got a ping on his display. It was a message from Zamudans. Your request for beach access has been approved in Tank 4. Sam smiled and looked at Olivia. Want to duck out? She read the message. Beat everyone else there. Hell yeah. Sam got up, pulling Olivia by the hand. The Senate chamber went on to topics of farm output and SFP efficiency. Sam floated on his back with Olivia floating beside him, staring up at bright lights high above them as the water lapped at their sides. I'm glad you came, he said. She touched his hand underwater. I'm happy to be here. Far below, the daughter of Zamudans watched the 2 humans floating on their backs with growing curiosity. Shineless sat with Pouchcheek and Crunch Crunch at the cornucopia. Shineless held little Caroline while Pouchcheek looked over into the swaddle. You made a cute baby, Pouchcheek said. Shineless looked down at the child. Thank you. I love her so much. Pouchcheek reached in and petted the soft hair on the top of her head. I'd kill for her too. She is of our clan. Crunch Crunch lifted his breather and nibbled on his pork chop. How long before she can make things with me? Shineless shrugged. Curator said it takes years for normal humans to get to adult stage. Pouchcheek looked up at Shineless. Ew. I'm glad you were not a normal. You helped me make right away. You had such good hands. She looked at the human woman's hands. You still do too. You could make again. Shineless looked at Caroline. The baby reached up at her face. I gotta finish making her first. Maybe one day I'll work in the shop with you, Mom. Maybe Caroline here will help us make things. Pouchcheek bounced in her seat. They gave me a project. They liked my research. It is a secret, so we have to talk quiet, but they are going to use my Hummer beam modifications in the prison. I got our clan the contract to build and install them. Shineless smiled at her adopted mom. That is good news. That sounds like good money. She bobbed her ears. Yes, the clan has already approved a habitat on Kawaru Prime with it. We will be able to bring several hundred more out of the Preserver's archive. Our people are returning. Shineless wrapped an arm around her mom. Our clan is growing.